request Assistant Professor Sachin Pimple sir, Coordinator, Department of Management Studies, Bansangas Annalila College, to introduce our esteemed resource person of the technical session. Over to you, Sachin sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Virat sir. I'm sure I'm audible. I'm very privileged. Yeah, thank you, Pritesh sir. I'm very privileged to get an opportunity to introduce eminent resource person for the second technical session.
Sachin sir.
Yes. Sorry. Can I proceed?
Sachin sir, Kinnari ma'am is not there. Just wait for a few minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Ma'am is there, sir.
Madam has
Ma'am is
joined.
there.
Madam has joined.
Ma'am is
Yes,
there,
yes.
ma'am is there.
Ma'am is
Sachin
there.
sir, please continue. Please continue.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Very privileged to get an opportunity to introduce eminent resource person for the second technical session of the day, CMA Dr. Kinnari Thakkar. Madam is Professor and Head of the Department of Commerce, University of Mumbai, and former Principal of SIS College of Commerce and Economics, Mumbai. Madam is a recipient of 2 gold medals for securing highest marks in MCOM examination. And as a teacher, she has received Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award for Teaching Excellence in 2018 and Shiksha Ratna Puraskar for meritorious performance in teaching. Madam is a member of Board of Studies in Accountancy and Special Invitee of Board of Studies in Business Management at University of Mumbai. She is a former chairperson of Board of Studies in Banking and Finance at University of Mumbai and co-opted member of the Board of Studies in Commerce for SMDT University, Pune University, Bharati Vidyapeeth University, and also member of Research Recognition Committee, Pune University. Under the excellence guidance of Madam, 5 students have been awarded PhD from University of Mumbai and 11 students awarded MPhil in Commerce. Currently, 5 research scholars are working under the guidance of Madam for pursuing PhD. Madam have successfully completed 4 research projects. 2 were funded by ICSSR, that is Indian Council of Social Science and Research, and 2 by University of Mumbai. Madam has published 42 research papers in various international and national research journals and presented papers in 69 international and national level conferences and seminars, including International Multidisciplinary Conference hosted at United States of America. Madam is nominated as member of editorial board and review committee of 10 reputed journals and nominated as the reviewers task panel member of the Intellect-based International Consortium, United States of America. She has been chairperson for 28 conferences and seminars and resource person at 111 workshops and webinars. Madam, we are indeed very much fortunate to have you with us. Thank you very much, ma'am. That's the first.
Thank you very much, sir. We are indeed very fortunate to have a resource person like Kinnari Thakkar madam in our second technical session. Welcome, madam. Dear delegates, before starting the session, we will go through the rules. Though everybody is aware of the rules, but protocol demands that it shall be repeated. All delegates are requested to present their paper on the given slots. Duration of the presentation is 10 minutes. That means the total duration is 10 minutes, out of which 7 minutes will be for presentation and 3 minutes for question answer session. Obviously, that would depend on Kinnari Thakkar madam, how the format madam will be approaching, whether it be 7 minutes for the participants and 3 minutes for question answer, or she may give her comments at the end of the session. Third, the delegates are requested to put on their video while presenting. The PPTs will be shared by the organizers, but like happened in the first session, they are also requested to keep the soft copy of the PPT ready in case of any emergency. Those who had requested that they will be presenting the PPTs from their end, or that means the screen sharing from their end, we are giving them the access. Delegates are required to be present throughout the conference as the attendance will be tracked. And the best research paper award will be declared during the valedictory function. With your permission, ma'am, shall we start with the first presentation? Madam, you are on mute, madam. The first presenter will be Amok Desai. Amok sir, you can start, sir.
Okay, am I audible first of all? Okay, sir. I am sharing my screen now. So is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, sir. You can proceed.
Okay. My presentation is a study on perception towards retirement planning among students in the city of Thane. So I am co-authoring with Vidya K. Darvesh madam from my same college, and myself I am Amok Desai. Okay. So moving on to the next slide, introduction. So about retirement, whenever the word retirement comes, many people have a perception, is this going to happen? And some or the other day we are going to retire. It's a fact. So there is a need that we plan ahead. And in previous researches, it has been found out that more literacy, more literate the person, there is a more saving behavior. So behavioral factors are ignored whenever it comes to retirement planning. Individuals generally tend to neglect retirement planning. Why so? So my statement of problem is, youth believe that it is too early to consider retirement planning. And whenever the word retirement comes in, it conjures negative feelings. So my objective of study is to study the perception towards retirement planning among students and to offer suggestions and finding of the study for future. So I have considered two hypotheses in major. The one is there is no association between the age and perception towards retirement planning. My alternate hypothesis is there is an association between age and perception. Second hypothesis is there is no association between gender and perception towards retirement planning among students. Alternate to this is there is an association. So the research methodology used by me is research design is exploratory and descriptive. Sampling method used was convenience based sampling. Sample size was 125. Tool used for analysis was MS Excel and SPSS. Data collection tool was questionnaire method by Google Form. Data analysis tools which were used by me were reliability test, percentage analysis test, two-tailed Mann-Whitney test, and ANOVA. So in my data of total 125 students, generally majority of the crowd was between the age group of 16 to 21. 80% of the crowd represented my that data. Gender wise, out of 125 students who had given me responses on this, 20% were male and 80% were female. So I had asked certain questions regarding their perception towards retirement plan. First question was, I am aware about retirement planning, and majority of my respondents either agreed or strongly agreed. Then retirement planning should be done by everyone. Most of them were like, yes, it should be done. I am aware retirement planning avenues. So again, majority were like agreeing to this or strongly agreeing to this. Next was, I think retirement planning must be done from an early age. Although most of the participants to my survey accepted this, that it should be done early. Then next question was, I think retirement planning must be done in consultation with financial planner. Again, majority of the participants were like yes. Going forward, I asked furthermore questions. I would curtail my expenses as far as possible to spend my life post retirement with whatever funds I've accumulated. Here I got maximum responses as agree, and there were some who did not agree to this. I already consulted my family members for my future financial retirement planning, and again here there were mixed reviews, but majoritarily people agreed. My friend circle discusses a lot about retirement planning. Again, there were mixed responses, but the majority was towards agree and strongly agree. I've already decided when I'm going to retire, although the maximum responses received were for agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree were also pertinent. I will do retirement planning as soon as I start earning. Majority of them agreed. Now, based on this data collection, I did certain tests, and on the certain tests, I did some findings. So my findings were my two-tail man-Whitney test was conducted to see whether gender was sorry whether gender was affecting my retirement planning decisions. But my test gave me a result of 0.086. So the distribution of retirement planning for group of male and female was not significantly different. Then next test was done was ANOVA. It was conducted to determine whether there was significant differences in retirement planning by age. And my results of ANOVA were significant, indicating that there was differences in planning among levels of age. So my conclusions and recommendations. Conclusions are the first 2 points. On the basis of hypothesis, the distribution of retirement planning for group of male was not significantly different from the distribution of retirement planning from female category. Second, there were significant differences in retirement planning among a different level of ages. So my recommendations were the policy makers can derive benefits from the results of the study by making strategies, and strategies may be developed to involve a culture of financial education. Any strategy aimed at enhancing retirement planning must be not universal, but it should take into account that one size does not suit everything. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation. Any questions?
Kindari ma'am, would you like to ask him questions? Okay, madam. Thank you, Amuk sir.
Okay, welcome. Thank you so much for allowing me to present.
Sir, please stop sharing your screen. Yeah. Our next presenter will be Aarti Parab, madam. Ma'am, please start sharing.
Yes, I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll share my screen. Well, I think it's visible, right? Yeah, it's visible, right? Okay, all right. So let me start with my presentation. But before that, I would like to say thank you to all the team and the other delegates and the resource person that I've got this opportunity to present my paper in this national conference. So my paper titled is blockchain or using blockchain in the services associated with COVID-19 pandemic to achieve security and management of facilities in quick manner. So before starting, I would like to just give an idea that why I opted this topic. Recently, I traveled by air, and there were some safety guidelines given by government while traveling. More guidelines are given while you are traveling by air. So, like there was need of RT-PCR test, and that too, which has to be performed before seven. Not should be maximum than 72 hours and so on. So taking all this consider, we followed all those guidelines which are given by government. But when we reached to the airport, we saw that, I actually saw that there are a lot of loopholes and bypass, for these all safety measures. In fact, including those people who were appointed to check all these, things, safety things and all, they were also bypassing it. Okay, okay, it's like chalega, aage jao. It was kind of like that. Um, I came to know one of the commuter was not even having that report, but still they were allowed to board onto the plane. So somewhere what I found is like, can we, can we have some centralized system, which can track this movement of people in this COVID-19 situation. Along with that, I also came to know while watching news and all, I was reading newspapers also, and I came to know that, um, the management of vaccines that are being distributed countrywide, that management is not also, up to that mark, where people like, going to the centers, but they are not getting the vaccine, vaccinated, because there was no proper supply or appropriate supply. So looking into all those matters, I thought that, can we, uh, have some system which can record all these things unifyingly, and then this information can be disseminated to the needy
Am I
people.
audible?
Yeah, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Shall I continue?
You continue, madam. You continue.
Okay, okay, thank you, ma'am. So that's how, what I thought. And then I started thinking that, how all these services and the management related things can be recorded centrally, and it can be, kept somewhere centrally in terms of proper or processed information, and then how it can be disseminated to the people, as well as all those in government regulatories and authorities involving in getting all those services or managing those services. So then I concluded that blockchain is the technology, which is the prominent technology which can be used for this purpose, or for what I was thinking, to regulate all these services and supply chain management of vaccines and all. So based on that, I just formulated some objectives. In fact, before I thought for all this, I was actually interested in learning blockchaining, and then I come to know this problem. So I tried to relate, or I tried to find the solution of this problem into the blockchain technology. So my objectives are, first of all, like, I have tried to understand the worldwide spread of COVID-19 pandemic, and what are the adverse effects that it has already, brought to us. Then again, I tried to find out that what all different services provided by government. I mean, I'm sure that, it is not the fact that government is not, coming up with the novel, solutions for, distribution of all these things and keeping track of all these things and all. Definitely government is doing. So I tried to find out what all different services are there which our government is already providing, and then I tried to explore that what are the different, loopholes into that, and how they can be managed using this blockchain technology. So my next objective was to explore the blockchain technology and its uses related to healthcare system. So I did some literature survey where I actually tried to find whether what I'm thinking is really is going to happen, or it's really, I mean, other people are also thinking about it. And actually I found good number of research paper, who tried to find this blockchain technology used in healthcare systems. So I read those papers, and I got an idea that, okay, we can also use these blockchain technology advantages to properly manage the COVID-19 pandemic situation. And then finally, I also tried to find that, okay, that even though blockchain technology seems to be, very from like prompt in using all this, but definitely there must be some challenges involved in establishing some standard system, right? Especially in India, I'll be talking about it even during this my presentation. So there are some challenges, right? So that also I tried to explore, and I'm trying to explaining them. So those are all my objectives. As I told, you all that the research methodology that I adopted is the literature review. So I actually went through different research papers, basically, which were based on blockchain technology, and then how the different uses of blockchain technology, and then specific uses in healthcare systems. So along with the actual research paper published, I also went through some news articles. Like I'll just highlight one that in the Hindu newspaper, the website, I saw one news that day also. I was actually thinking about it, that how to manage the services effectively, and I came across that British government has already thought of using this blockchain technology in management of their vaccination program. So that was actually a link to me, and I actually then went into that I should actually start studying this and start finding that whether blockchain technology is applicable in this healthcare system, especially in COVID-19 pandemic situation. So I did that literature review. Then, as I told you, that I tried to find what are different services that government is doing. So first of all, obviously, to manage this COVID-19 pandemic situation, government has already established COVID centers, which I would say that they actually tried well, and they tried to establish in quick manner. But looking at the news and reports and many other things, like when we come to know from some friends and family and society groups that they're finding it hard to find the bed to get admit into the hospitals. Then again, I'm sure everybody is already aware that how the oxygen supply and all is still, it's not on up to the management related to all the services is really not up to the mark. So can we actually write, or can we actually record this information somewhere? Can we unify all this information somewhere on the server, and then can we use, okay, so can we give away this information to the needy whenever they want, through some web portals or some news flashes or something like that? So that was one service. And the loophole along with that, like management of COVID-19 vaccination. So as I told you that vaccinations, supply of vaccination is not being properly tracked. Okay, we also heard the news, like people try to do the black marketing of this vaccines and all. So definitely blockchain will solve this problem. I'll discuss that too. Then Arogya Setu app. So this was a mobile app. It was actually a good effort by government, who actually released this Arogya Setu app, which is basically used for contact tracing app. So if you have come into contact with the person of a group of people who has got this corona infection, it will also update you through your Bluetooth connectivity. But again, the loophole is that we don't keep our Bluetooth connectivity on for all 24/7, though it is a need, and government has given this instruction that your Bluetooth connectivity needs to be on every time 24/7, so that you will remain updated, and even government will have all the information related to contact tracing. But that is also failing, I must say. And lastly, the traveling management, or knowing the people whereabouts. So as I told you that when you're traveling, when you're commuting, you are supposed to carry those test reports and all. But as I told you, there is really a way of bypassing this, as I myself personally experienced that. So there are definitely some loopholes, but blockchain technology will definitely give answer to, definitely will give the solution to these problems. So now here I have just tried to summarize what is blockchain technology. Many of us, I'm sure, that must be knowing, because blockchain is something which is currently being studied and talked and likewise. So many of us must be aware about the bitcoins. So how bitcoins have started using blockchaining first, and then now blockchain is
Aarti
you know,
madam, Aarti madam, sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, I think I'm
7 minutes.
exiting.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
please,
yeah,
please, madam. Yeah.
yeah, sure. So as I told you, blockchain technology is like it's a centralized system which will have all the information recorded, and then it can be decentralized to different hubs, so that it can be accessed by the people who want to access it. So it's like information which is recorded will be unified at one way. It will be integrated, no unauthorized person can change it, or for any purpose. So everything will be recorded. Again, trust matter will also be there, like, because it's all already confidential, or more to that, I should say that it is going to be stored in the form of cryptographic information, so nobody can change it. And it will be available to the person whom or where it is supposed to go. Plus there will be trust involved, because all these is done by the systems, right? And the next is that traceability is going to be the best feature of this blockchain. And what I want is in healthcare system is the traceability. So blockchain technology will be used to trace all this whereabouts of the people who are traveling, people who came into the contact of COVID-19 infected people, then supply management of vaccines, etc. So I'll just summarize. The next is challenges. Though blockchain has proved itself as a prominent technology in tracing the services and managing this healthcare system related services, there are some there are some challenges in India, especially because Indian government has not yet approved blockchain technology, nor even bitcoins. So there is kind of opposed from the Indian government also. So looking into that, from that perspective, there are challenges like, first of all, concept awareness concerning the blockchain technology. So we need people to understand what is blockchain technology and how it is helpful in tracing the services or product, or like supply chain, etc. And even people whereabouts. The lack of regulation and establishing specific regulatory body, this is the challenge, because this blockchain technology is actually in its infancy. So it's actually new technology, and many research is still yet to be done. So that's what regulations and standard system is yet not in practice. And then the third challenge is really important, that is integration of current technologies with the blockchain. So already we have different technologies, like we already have Arogya Setu app, we already have our Aadhaar information, QR, unique identification, etc. So how we are going to integrate all these systems with the blockchain technology is again a challenge. And this is the scope where we actually can further perform research. So this is a specific thing what I wanted to highlight, that how a healthcare system can actually use this blockchain technology, where all the information from this healthcare systems, or whoever actually is generating the information regarding it, like regarding patient being infected, patient being got discharged, or patient or contact tracing and all, or regarding vaccination, regarding people commuting from one place to another. So all these information will be sent. Then there is something which is there is something in the sense, this is the processing or cryptography of this information. So that means your information, though you are putting in public domain, will remain confidential, and it will go to the this unified digital ledger, that is blockchain. And every information will be available ultimately using through secure gateway to all these peoples whenever needed. So my conclusion is that blockchain can really become a hub. India can really become a hub of blockchain technology. It's not only about healthcare system, but in any other system also. If you want traceability, if you want data to be integrated at proper place, and data to be disseminated in proper way, blockchain is really the answer for this. Well, with that, I would like to end my presentation. These are all different references that I've used to perform my literature survey and the literature study. That's it. Thank you, all of you, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much. Brad sir, I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am. Kindari madam.
The questions I will ask at the end of the session.
Okay, perfect, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Arati madam,
Nice
please.
I'll- yes.
presentation, Aarti. Nice presentation, Aarti.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so our next participant is Miss Falguni Matthews. Falguni madam.
Yes, sir. I'll just share my screen, sir.
Yes, yes. Ma'am.
Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so my topic, good afternoon, Canary ma'am. My topic is a study on the effect of COVID-19 on the digital payment system with reference to women users of Mumbai city. So I'll start with my introduction. When COVID-19 actually struck India, it affected the entire nation very badly. We had lockdown, which was announced in March 2020, and people, almost every industry was affected. People stopped going to offices, malls, schools, colleges, hotels, everything was shut, and people avoid going to places and preferred remaining at home, and there was a major impact on the digital payment system. Uh, for their daily expenses, people started using digital payment system in the pandemic, and the number of users actually increased. It skyrocketed. Though they were using it before also, but the usage increased in this pandemic. In fact, people started using various payment options which were available in India, such as, you have ATM cards, debit cards, credit cards, Google Pay, Phone Pay, Amazon Pay, UPI, Beam, Paytm, and you have various other banking applications like internet banking, NEFT, RTGS, IMPS, uh, and mobile wallets. So, all these actually became very, very popular during this pandemic. Now, the objective of my study is to study the concept of digital payments. Second, to know the usage of digital payments among women. And thirdly, is to understand the impact of COVID-19 on digital payments among women. My research method, I have conducted both primary as well as secondary research. Secondary research is based on the literature survey, journals, newspapers, blogs, and various articles. And primary research I have done on the basis of a questionnaire and certain people who were interviewed. I'll straight away go to my limitations. The limitations were the study is conducted among women users who use this digital payment system. The women interviewed are from Mumbai city, and hence the results may not be applicable in other parts of the country. And the sample size that I took was 50. So I guess if you take a larger sample, the results would be more accurate. So these are some of my limitations. I have asked about 10 to 15 questions based on my topic, and I have in my PPT used a few questions, and which I will just explain. Like, the question here is like, how long have you been using the digital payment system? Now, if you see, the majority of people started using it, in a less than a year's time. That is 40% were using the digital payment in less than 1 year's time, which shows the effect of COVID-19 pandemic. It's only after the pandemic started that more women users started shopping online, started making payment of bills online using this digital payments. The rest you can see in the pie chart. The next question which I asked was, which is the different payment, digital payments which are used by you? Now, almost all of them, which I interviewed, the 50 of them, they all had debit cards and they were using debit cards. And the other payment which are very, very popular is the NEFT RTGS. Then you have the Google Pay. And amongst them, the least used is WhatsApp Pay. Probably that's the most recent one which has been added. So there are very few who have been using that, and remaining have varied opinions. The least after Google Pay was credit cards. So probably because of the charges that you need to pay, the credit card usage has been a little lower than the other digital payments. Nextly was, what has been your usage of digital payment during the COVID-19 pandemic? There were 80% who said that they've been using it at a high rate, 10% who said very high, Another 10% said they were neutral because they were already using it before. And when it came to less and very less, there was zero. There was nobody who said that they don't use it. So everybody was using the digital payment system. Now, why do you use this digital payment system? So if you can see that, people have various reasons as to why they have been using, like, it's cashless, okay, it's safe to use, uh, it has flexibility. So, there are different reasons which have been given by the users. The next question was, what are the difficulties which are faced by them while using the digital payment system? Now, the difficulties that they used, many had fear of losing money. Some people had connectivity issues. Some people couldn't understand the language which they were using. Some people had lack of knowledge, uh, lack of security, fear of losing money. So this is the data of people, like, what they faced while using the digital payment system. Next is the last question which I asked them is, will you continue using the digital payment system even after the COVID-19 pandemic? And all 50 of them said yes, they would be using it even after the pandemic because of the convenience that it offers. So based on this questionnaire, I've given certain suggestions which which a bank could use, is that banks should place greater emphasis when it comes to server and connectivity issues, communication issues. And through my survey and through this interview, I got to know that consumers faced issues, especially with nationalized banks. So, if they could just upgrade their system so that, people don't face these problems, and they would be more encouraged to use their apps. Next is, whenever a new feature is added to the application, whether it is bank or digital payment institutions, it should be communicated to the users. Now, the communication can be in English, Hindi, or any regional state language, so that, people will understand. Next is, all these payment systems on their websites, they should have FAQs. Well, some of them already had, but, if these FAQs could also be in different languages, so, it can cater to wider audience. And also there should be having some helpline number, so that, whenever there's any issue, it could be immediately resolved. Customers should also update and, use new methods. So whenever there are any updates available, it should be, automatically be done, or, it should be conveyed by banks. We can also held seminars, workshops, so that, if customers are facing any issues, it could be addressed over there, and we could receive solutions over there. Probably they would even learn how to use the application. Now, customers had this, they were afraid of frauds. So, people who are afraid, there should be some more thing. They should be, informed about the do's and don'ts. And, they should know that, there are certain PIN numbers, OTPs, which should not be shared. Though, educated people know about this, but there are many people who are not aware and unknowingly just give these numbers. So there should be more awareness given by banks and digital payment systems. Other suggestions are, there should be regular advertisements on TV, radio, as well as social media. So, more and more people are aware of these payment systems, and people will go cashless. Now, this should be not just targeted at urban areas, but even the rural area. Digital payments should use the more secure technology, so that, fraud related things can be reduced. And even if there is a fraud, it should be easily traceable as to, where the money exactly goes. Due to fear of hidden charges, okay, credit cards have hidden charges. So people were reluctant to use it. So, when it comes to credit cards, probably on their website, they can clearly mention, what are these charges and how the calculation is done. because many people aren't aware of the calculations of credit cards. So, once we come to know of this, there could be more usage of it. And for women users, if they could give some more offers, discounts, incentives, or rewards. So, more and more women users, are encouraged to use this. So these are some of the suggestions which I had. And lastly, I would like to conclude by saying that COVID-19 has had a diverse and varied influence on the digital economy. And ever since the year 2020, the number of digital payment apps, if you see downloads, the Google Play and App Store, if you see, has increased quite a lot. And the Indian government is also urging people to switch to digital transactions in order to prevent the spread of, the COVID disease. So, even restaurants, retail shops, small businesses have also started using all kind of digital payments. So, this lockdown has actually made us realize that we need to change our payment mode. Though cash is never going to go away, but, there would be an increase used and digital payment systems are going to be more common. So banks and digital payment systems are expected to, really invest heavily on their apps and fraud detection technology, and they need to be more smart and effective in their work. So, this pandemic has actually opened up new possibilities and perspectives for Indian banks, companies, as well as individuals. So, with that, I would like to just end my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Falguni madam.
Any questions? Okay, I guess there are no questions. Thank you.
We can continue, sir. Next participant.
Yes. Our next participant is Miss Prachi Vankani madam.
Yes,
Prachi
sir.
madam, are you ready?
Yes, sir. I'll just share
Yeah,
my
yeah,
screen.
yeah,
Let me know
yes.
if it's visible, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Is the screen visible to you?
Yeah, it's visible. Please
Okay.
start.
Yes, to begin with, my topic for the day is a study of the trends towards content-driven storytelling in media, advertisements to create a strong connection with the audiences. So to give you a brief introduction about it, whenever we think of storytelling, we tend to conjure up memories of childhood, fairy tales, or even campfires. And urine stories are also an essential form of human communication and are often among the first conveyors of cultural norms and values. Talking about content that grabs people's attention, captivates, and makes them feel emotionally engaged really well, narrates a good story. Whenever consumers prepare to make a purchase decision, stories can deliver important information and shape the decision and the overall brand experience. Storytelling is a content marketing strategy that any brand, company, or even a product or service can greatly benefit from, and people do remember stories. Now, with the growth of consumer to consumer digital media outlets, stories have to have the potential to be powerful resource for shaping the cognitive processing memory, brand image, and also the preference for the audiences. Jumping on to the next slide. One second. Yes, I have taken a case study of 3 brand examples. That is, first, campaign of Dove, the Stop Beauty Test. Second is Bonvita, the Jeet Ki Tayari, wherein a principal had actually had a 360 degree interview campaign marketing for all these parents to let them know that examinations and marks are not important, but your talent is what makes more sense to. And the third one, that is Ariel Share the Load ad. I believe all of us are aware of these. Next comes is my objectives. My first objective is to understand the shift in the content-driven trends and also to understand how audiences connect to storytelling in media. The research methodology used is primary and secondary, using various journals, websites, and with the tool using of Google form questionnaire with a sample size of 50 for my research here. The scope and limitations are as follows: that the present study was an attempt to basically study the latest trends and understand how our audiences connect to storytelling in media advertisement. The scope was also to help understand the company's venture into storytelling space with brand marketing and branded content in order to forge the strong connection with the audiences, or I can say the consumers out around in the market. The limitations for the study is the study, or my research rather, I would say, is only focused to Mumbai region, and thus there is a limitation to geographical boundaries around. My study also only focuses on advertisements and do not include any other integrated marketing communication tool or on. Also, the sample size that I have chosen is 50. Also, here I could say a larger number will provide accurate image, but I however chose it for 50. The data interpretation out here highlights clearly based on the questions wherein 84% of my target audience chose digital media as their interest whenever they see ads. Also, with 88% of their audiences to understand which appeals help the audiences understand and relate to the brand in a better way. The next question asked was, what kind of content best connects to you? So here, and also with given an option of fictional, real life and animated, 96% of my audiences, or I can say my target audiences, chose real life storytelling, which clearly shows that the recent trend of storytelling with brands is helping the audiences resonate better with their brands. Also, with another question of different brands given into picture, 66% of my audiences chose Dove, as in the case study that I have taken off with brands, and with the highest majority of 86% connecting to the brand Ariel, Share the Load. The last two questions that I asked, if they believed in these storytelling making, generating or making an impact, to which 90% of the audience is connected to and said a yes to. And the last question, if these storytelling technique, or I can say rather content driven storytelling technique, is helping them encourage or encouraging them to buy the products for the consumption, wherein 60% of the audiences said yes and 36 were a little skeptical but said a maybe to the same. Concluding on the same, when consumers are preparing to make a buying decisions, I can say stories can provide a critical detailing and influence the decision as well as the overall brand experience here. With the study, I found out that people who were exposed to brand studies, or sorry, stories, felt much more connected and trusted those brands than those who were not. Also, storytelling has been used to express beliefs and values, and will continue to be an important source for knowledge and power in the digital age. With the development and improvement of emerging technologies such as virtual reality, brands here on should expect new ways to use content-driven storytelling for their communication strategies in order to connect well with their audiences out in the market. So that's all from my end. I would like to stop my presentation here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Parchi madam.
Thank you, sir.
Our next presentation is from Mr. Sachin Pimple. Sachin sir.
Am I audible?
Sachin sir. Yeah, yes, sir. Please.
Just a sec, I'll share the screen. Yeah, is the screen visible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, madam, and good afternoon, all other participants, my colleagues. My topic, myself, Sachin Pimple. I'm the PhD student at CKT College of Commerce and Science, that is at New Panvel, and assistant professor at Annadela College. And my co-author, actually, my PhD guide is Dr. Kishore Peshori, sir. And the topic of my presentation is study of financial literacy knowledge of the students of Arts, Commerce and Science colleges from Raigad, Ratnagiri and Sindhudurga districts affiliated to University of Mumbai. Breaking my the topic is basically what is financial literacy. It is knowledge to understand financial concepts, skill to apply, to take wise financial decisions. So it is all about how much you know about finance and because you can apply while taking the decisions or not. Better financial knowledge can make you to the better decisions. University of Mumbai, as we all are aware, is the oldest and the prominent this prominent university in the country and imparting best of the education for the students. Raigad, Ratnagiri, and Sindhudurga districts are basically emerging coastal districts in the state of Maharashtra. So this is breaking off my topic. What is the need of the study? Why I'm basically studying this specific topic? The first of study of financial literacy knowledge is very important, and I'm doing at niche level because I'm specifically focusing on these three districts and the students of this district. So of course, many people have studied about financial literacy globally, worldwide, nationwide. But what is the situation scenario at coastal districts of Maharashtra? That is my topic. I have chosen college going learners with an intention because they are the future citizens and decision makers for the financial affairs. So if they are having good financial knowledge at this level, definitely it will be improved further. And when they will be entering into the real world to take the financial decisions, their financial decisions will be better and wise. Raigad, Ratnagiri, and Sindhudurga districts. Why I have collected all three districts together instead of taking one each? Because these three districts are having very common attributes. First of all, they all are coastal districts. Their occupation, that is agriculture, tourism, and marine fishing, is common for all the three districts. They are very close, very nearby, and we can say very much distinct associated districts. And basically, they are emerging districts. So emerging trains we are going to check out in this conference. So they are emerging districts because their economical data like GDP, income level, literacy ratio, this kind of level this data is quite improving. So better improvements in economical data will give them better income. And when they are having better income, and if they are having good financial knowledge, this specific combination will be the very good one for the development of the economy. Objectives were to know the concepts of financial literacy and understanding level of financial literacy among the students of these three districts. I have focused on these three hypotheses that whether the financial literacy is dependent on their faculty of education, whether arts, commerce, science, it is affecting it, whether the financial literacy is dependent on their gender, or whether it is dependent on master's degree. So basically undergraduates and postgraduates, do they have some different level of financial literacy? So these were my three hypotheses. Research methodology, I have studied both secondary and primary data. So primary data was research design was descriptive and exploratory. Sampling method was the random sampling. Few of the colleges were chosen and the students were selected. Students were randomly selected. Sample size was 834 students. I have studied survey because 3 districts, many colleges, and that's the reason for this sample size. Data collection tool was the questionnaire, that is the primary level I have done. And the test which I have used is two-tailed man-Whitney U-test to understand the hypothesis. So the hypothesis testing, all the 3 hypotheses in my case, in all 3 hypotheses, null hypothesis has been accepted. When it comes about the education, it is p-value is less than 5. When it is 0.5, I'm sorry. When it is come about gender, it is equal, and when it is come about master's degree is equal. So my hypothesis testing says that there is no relation between the financial literacy with education, financial literacy with gender, and financial literacy with master's degree. Of course, it opens up the new point of study that then what financial literacy is related with, whether it is related with the experience, whether it is related with the amount of money available for the investment, whether it is related with the financial background of the students, what kind of, so that can be the further study can be taken care if considering the specific responses from the students. I have found some of the conclusions and findings were uneven financial awareness. That was the first thing which I observed immediately, because the students are aware about insurance are only 7.73%. Whereas we go for inflation concepts, 67.39% are aware about inflation concepts, and investment and risk return 40%. So there is different type of financial concepts aware by different type of people. So there is no common awareness about the financial awareness. Next is even if financial awareness is uneven, investment avenue awareness is very much even. The highest, I have given option of equity funds, mutual funds, debt funds, post office instruments, insurance, a lot of different investment avenues were asked. The highest, I have just noted over here only two, because the highest awareness in debt market 62.33 and lowest awareness in post office instrument, which is 52.56. All are there in between this range of 62 to 52. So that is quite even awareness about the investment avenues. Next is almost half the respondents are using digital platform for financial transaction. This specifically are taken because they are from the rural background. They are from the rural India. Even though they are from the rural background and rural India, maybe because of COVID or maybe because of some other reasons, but at about 50%, 46%, 47% students are applying or using digital platform for the financial transactions. Another point of worry is peripheral awareness. What do you mean by peripheral awareness is that students, 59% students are aware about simple interest application. They can apply, they can calculate sum, they can answer it very well. But when it comes to compound interest application, not even half the students of that. So 59% can apply simple interest, but only 12% can apply compound interest application. So that peripheral awareness is a big problem. Financial planning knowledge, 58% students are having financial planning knowledge. But when it comes to application of financial knowledge, because financial literacy is not only whether you know, but it is also about can you apply or not. So when it comes to application, it comes to only 44%. So peripheral students are aware, but when it comes to applying, they might not be aware. It may be because of the less of the age and the experience they're having. In future, they may get it. And use of bank facilities. This is a worrisome thing, because even though 76.50% bank our students are having their bank accounts, but only 2% students are using bank accounts for FDs and RDs, which is income earning source. And 11.27% of the students are investors. They're investing in share market or some other kind of thing. So even though they are having banking facilities, but of course, FDRD is a small amount. It's not that they should have big amount. Even small amount from their pocket money, they can invest and they can get good amount. They are not using it properly. So this is what I have concluded. This is what my entire study was all about. I am of course open for question and answers. But, I proceed?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Big thank you to all the delegates. That was indeed a very good session. I now request resource person and our expert, Dr. Kinnari Thakkar Madam, to give a review of the session and give her expert comments. Madam, please.
So good afternoon to all. And it was a very nice time being with you, listening to the various topics. See, it's always a learning time for everyone. Whenever you listen to new papers, new ideas, suddenly you think of how, this can be formed into a research paper. This is what every listener should try to inculcate, that any topic you read, any topic you listen to, or you understand what is being presented by the other participants, you try to pick up a research topic. That's the sign of a researcher. So even I have got 2-3 topics which I have, which I can make out from the presentations. And indeed, all the presenters have taken lot of efforts. Wherever I go for judging, or wherever I go as a resource person for as a technical sharing sessions, I always have noticed that majority of the presenters do not include all the contents required for a particular paper presentation. Either you miss out on time, or you miss out on the overall uh, different contents which are required. And one of the most important content is research gap. You have selected one topic. Why you have selected a topic? Why you think that this work has not been done by any other? There are so many papers which are being presented all over across different states, across different conferences and seminars. So why do you think that your paper is a unique paper? You don't have to spend much time. You have to just tell it in maybe 30 seconds that this is the research review which I have done, and this work of mine is unique vis-a-vis the other works which has been performed. So that is the which is missed in everyone. So the competition is a level playing field now because everybody has missed that. But this is what important information which I think I should share with you, because you are also going to do a number of presentations in future after one, for all your promotions and progress in your career graph. And the another important content which was missed out, everybody knows that hypothesis, objectives, what kind of research analysis you have done, final conclusions, all this is a part of your research paper presentation. So one important last after conclusion point which was missed out by everyone was future studies or further studies. So what is the scope of your study, where you are stopping, and where from the next step the new study can be started, can be initiated, or from where you have stopped, somebody else can take over. So this also you try to apply your minds, and in just 20 seconds you can say this is a further scope of further studies. Just a slide, you can just flip over it, you may not even talk much about that, but include it as a part of your research presentations. Always remember, it has to be a complete research paper presentation, but time management, with time management. So this was two important points which I thought I should share with you, because in future you are going to continue with this exercise. So that is what my intention. And papers were very good, all have done I don't know why one thing is spread in for paper presentation is primary data. In fact, in India only we give importance to primary data. In Indian present papers, conferences, I have seen everywhere that primary data is given more importance. But in any foreign countries, if you see, they feel primary data can be highly manipulated. So they do not. So when you are publishing papers in Elsevier and other important journals, if if you are doing primary data, at times it is considered by them as a manipulative information. So many good journals, they give more importance on secondary data. So I just want to convey this message that even if you have a secondary data, don't think that you are non-competitive, and because others have primary data and they can have more research analysis possible. No, secondary data also has an equal scope of good and better research analyst. And secondary data is from authenticated sources, so you should have more confidence in your secondary data. Whatever information, see, like financial literacy paper, this last presentation, second last presentation which was there, I don't know second last or last, I think Sachin, yes. So in that paper, what paper comparison was done for science, arts and other students. Every student may not have the same knowledge, so everybody at their mood, at their different time frame and mood, they may give some information and they may say that, oh, I know about financial literacy, I know about the financial scope availability, but how to apply they are not understanding. That was the conclusion, I think, what Dr. Pimple, what Mr. Pimple said. So this can be highly manipulative things. So when we take information from primary, I have observed that confidence level of those who are doing from secondary is always low. But I always tell them that you take it in the, take it in your stride, and think that this is also a competition. This also stands at par with the competition level, especially when you are at an international platform. So here I specifically advise all of you that in case if you have an excellent topic which has a secondary data, please go for paper presentation or publication of that secondary data also. Primary data, what uh, analysis has been applied by all these presenters are basic level analysis. If you have primary data, don't go for basic analysis, go for higher level uh, softwares like MOS, PLS, eViews. So for primary data, choose an higher level of softwares, and for secondary data, all of these presenters did today, and presentations were based on some different test. That kind of test you can do for secondary data. So you see the different publications which are Emerald publication, Elsevier publication. For there you will never find normal analysis, you will always find softwares being used for analysis. Of course, I understand that at this point of time it is costlier also. It is not that easy that you can just go and do the analysis on your own. So it has to be cost effective as well, because here you are only investing, you are not getting any kind of fund or projects funding from any institution. So at this point of time it is okay, but in future, to improve your career graph, to be a better well known author, especially a good avid reader and a good paper presenter and publisher, I think you should go and try right now from this stage. Right now, try for some good softwares and get your conclusions and research findings written, conclusion, finding, and methodology by using those softwares. So congratulations to the organizer, and congratulations to all the paper presenters, and all the presentations were excellent, up to the mark, and it was really wonderful listening to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, madam. I'm sure all the participants must have immensely benefited by your guidance, and will surely incorporate the suggestions in our future research and our teaching journey. I sincerely thank our resource person, Dr. Kinnari Thakkar madam, for her guidance and being able to take time out of her busy schedule and guiding us. I also thank the delegates who have presented the papers and those who are present in this session for the contribution towards the academic enrichment. With this, we have come to end of our second technical session. We will be taking a quick break of 5 minutes and then proceed to begin the valedictory session. Nitin sir? Pritesh sir?
Yes, sir. Sir, we will be taking a small break.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
And then we will join all the participants. We will take a small break of 5 minutes. And then we will start with our valedictory session.
So I can exit, sir?
Pritesh sir, please guide madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Kiran sir, can we start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon to everyone and welcome to the valedictory session of this one-day virtual national conference. I, Pritesh Somani, take this valedictory program ahead. But before we begin, I request our convener, CA Kiran Gajjar, to please take a review of the entire conference. Over to you, Kiran sir.
Thank you very much, Professor. It's really a nice conference. The objective of the conference is successfully achieved by bringing the 88 researchers under one roof from the different fields and different part of countries for research publication. Out of these 88 research scholars, 12 research scholars shared their views on diverse topics. I'm happy to know that some presenters are first-time presenters. We have come to know about the very interesting and heart-touching facts through the presenters. The research also proved that the married people do not like to work from home as compared to unmarried. Happiness of the student in India is reducing. One more interesting fact we come to know that the gender is affecting the buying behavior for soft drink purchase. We also went through a diverse set of research papers in the field of advertising, financial literacy, income tax planning, and awareness about the retirement planning among the student, change in social media, technicality of machine language and networking, use of blockchain technology, digital payment during the COVID-19, and we learned how the storytelling improves the branding. Our chief guest, Mr. Baliram Gaikwad, Registrar of University of Mumbai, has thrown the light on the current situation. He rightly said that our work should be talked louder than our introduction, and research should be useful for the society and not only for the purpose of certificate. He also emphasized on the linkage of various disciplines and schools of studies. The valuable guidance of two eminent personalities provided on research work is extraordinary. The first resource person, Dr. Kishori Bhagat ma'am, guided the delegates with the mantras of 3 C's for the research. She also explained the purpose of research in very simple words in 3 steps. The first is the problem, then the research, and finally the solution out of the research. Dr. Kinnari Thakkar ma'am cleared the basic doubt of the delegates. That is, she emphasized that not only the primary data is important, even paper based on secondary data have her equal weightage. I am sure that every researcher is going to improve their research work in the future by following this guideline explained by both of the resource persons. Thank you very much, everyone, for making this conference successful and have a good future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kiran sir. That was an actual true gist of the entire day, which you have beautifully covered it in short, how the entire session went. Now, taking the things ahead, we, the organizing committee of this one-day virtual national conference, request a few of the participants to kindly share their valuable feedback with us for this today's one-day program. We will like to hear from few of the participants, their views, suggestions, but areas for improvement on which we should focus to make the further research events, further programs quite successful. Over to you, participants. Any one of you would like to start the feedback session? You can please unmute yourself and start.
Pritesh, sir, if I can highlight a few points, sir.
Sure, ma'am.
This is Prachi. So yeah, a big thank you to organizing committee who helped us being part of this. I would especially like to thank Mrs. Kiran ma'am, who actually helped me to work on this paper at the very last moment because I got to know about it very late. But with all of her support and her guidance, I was able to present my paper today. So a big thank you to all of you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else would like to, if take it. Are the hello?
Yes, sir. I would like to say.
Yes, who's this?
Sakshi Khatri.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I, Professor Sakshi Khatri from Majetia College, would like to say the organizers have arranged the conference in a very systematic manner. Also on phone, mail and WhatsApp, they have attended our queries and solved them quickly. So on behalf of the participants, I would like to thank the organizers for arranging such a wonderful workshop.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Pritesh, sir, I would like to share my views.
Yes, who's this, ma'am?
Suraya.
Okay, ma'am, please go ahead.
First of all, I would like to thank you all for organizing such a wonderful conference. Special thanks to the expert who have shared their informative knowledges with us. As a research student, this conference has generated a lot of ideas about how to continue to expand my skill, my knowledges, and how to write a quality paper, as well as to present the paper within the time limit. I would like to thank everyone, and thank you for making me feel so welcome to share my feedback, and I am looking forward for the next conference with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your words. It was quite a motivation for us. Anyone else would like to speak?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please, sir. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
हेलो, नमस्कार।
नमस्कार, सर।
मैं जगेंद्र धोटे, सहायक प्राध्यापक अर्थशास्त्र, शासकीय महाविद्यालय भैंसदेई, जिला बैतूल, मध्य प्रदेश। हमने आज का ये ऑनलाइन कॉन्फ्रेंस का कार्यक्रम अटेंड किया। बहुत ही सराहनीय तरीके से कार्यक्रम संपादित हुआ है और अन्ना लीला कॉलेज के ऑर्गेनाइजिंग कमेटी और सभी सदस्य और पार्टिसिपेंट्स बधाई के पात्र हैं। खासकर प्रीतेश सोमानी सर का एक्टिव पार्टिसिपेशन बहुत अच्छा लगा।
थैंक यू सर।
तो आगे भी ऐसे ही कॉन्फ्रेंस आयोजित हो, बहुत अच्छी बात है, और ज्ञानवर्धन हो, मौका मिले सबको अपने रिसर्च पेपर प्रेजेंट करने का, नए नए शोध प्रकाशित करने का, प्रेजेंट करने का। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू।
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to add something?
Yes, sir. I would like to add.
Yes, ma'am.
Myself, Rakhi Gulati from South Indian College, Ambernath, and congratulations to the organizing committee of Anna Leela College. It was indeed a very good conference which I had ever seen, and basically speaking about the time management. The time management of the organizing committee, what they have done is really appreciable. The conference started sharp at 10:30, and the second technical session was also ended at 3 o'clock. Now following this valedictory function, so really appreciable the organizing committee. A big congratulations to all of you. And by attending this session from the right till the beginning, from the beginning till the end, we have learned a lot of things about the time management for the presentation, that Dr. Kinnari madam said that secondary data paper presentation and research paper can be made on the basis of secondary data. This was not known to me. So thank you all of you, Kiran sir, Kiran madam, Nitin sir, and all the organizing committee. A big congratulations to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rakhi ma'am. If anyone else would like to add, or we can proceed for the further discussions. Anyone else would like to give some feedbacks, some suggestions, something anyone would like to add on? Okay, so thank you so much, participants, for the lovely feedback which you shared with us. It will definitely help us to organize more such programs in coming future. Okay, moving ahead, the moment for which we all were waiting for, the best research papers from both the technical sessions. Before we announce actually the best research papers, every research paper was actually well written in their field, beautifully drafted, because every research is definitely different from one another, and it is going to be different, no doubts. That is the beauty of research. Everything is different from one another person. But like we said, we had to come up with one best paper from every technical session. So starting with the first technical session, the best paper award is being given to Rashna Patel ma'am. The first technical session, the award for the best paper is being awarded to Rashna Patel ma'am. And for the second technical session, the award goes to Prachi Vankani madam. Are the participants there?
Yes, sir, I am there. Thank you so much. This means a lot.
Thank you so much. Okay, so taking the program ahead, I request Vidya ma'am to please, okay, Rashna ma'am is here, I think so. Okay, ma'am.
Sir, may I say a word?
Please, ma'am, go ahead.
So thank you very much for this honor. I never expected it, sir. And I also want to thank you for accommodating me. I know I am an arts teacher and student, and you are a commerce college. So I thought that was really very gracious of Kiran Gajjar sir for accommodating me, and thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Coming to the business end of our function, I request our treasurer of the conference to please propose the formal vote of thanks. Over to you, Vidya.
Thank you, Pritesh sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I, Vidya Darvesh. Thanks as a word is so small, yet it speaks volumes and volumes of the hidden sentiments of gratitude within the heart. Thanks is a word, it makes happy both giver and the receiver. It is our duty to thank you all for your presence to this event. I would like to propose a very hearty vote of thanks to our resource persons, Dr. Kishori Bhagat, Associate Professor, Pragati College of Arts and Commerce, and Dr. CMA, Dr. Kinnari Thakkar, Professor and Head of Department, University of Mumbai, who blessed us with their presence and took out valuable time of their busy schedule. I must mention our deep sense of gratitude for their work, like guiding our participants, giving valuable suggestions on their research work, etc. I heartily congratulate to the best paper winners and our participants. Without them, the event would not have been successful. As no program can become successful with a single person, so I extend my big thanks to our research committee members and the entire team Anna Leela for their support. Thank you guys for making this event successful with your contribution. Thank you all. I request everyone to raise for the national anthem.
Just a minute, Vidya ma'am, just a minute.
Okay, sir.
Okay, before we play the national anthem, a few announcements to be made.
Okay.
First and foremost, there will be a feedback form which will be shared right after the national anthem in the chat box. Requesting all the participants to please fill the feedback form very carefully. Write your name properly because that will be used for drafting certificates. In case your paper is a co-author paper, make sure both the authors' details are properly updated with us so that we will be able to get the certificates ready. Okay, and as far as the journals are concerned, the journal publication work is in progress. As and when we will get the updates from our publisher, we will be keeping the things posted in the group, requesting all to not to leave the group of conference which we have created. Most probably you will be receiving your journals on the postal address which you have submitted. In case any correction is there in postal address from any person, Google form may, if any wrong postal address has been given, you can make the required correction by writing the correct updated addresses too. Certificates will be sent to you all on the registered email ID which you had given in Google form in a maximum time period of 7 working days. You will receive the certificate in maximum 7 days. That is the maximum time I am saying. You will receive the certificates of your paper publication and presentation, and the details of journals will be posted in the group. Thank you so much. Now I request Vidya ma'am to we can proceed with the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, participants. It was a really great day. You all can now make a move from the meeting. The conference is, the end of the conference is declared here. I request research committee to stay back in the meeting, or other participants can leave the meeting. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time given to the conference. Thank you so much. The link for the feedback form will be shared. Yes, please. Okay. Sorry. We will be sharing the link of feedback form. In case not here, you will get in the official WhatsApp group.